Now, that spending need not be done by the government. But it is important that healthcare facilities, indeed human capital generally, has got to be upscaled very significantly in Nigeria if our economy is going to make progress. And I think it's important for me to also say that whilst the NESG, this is an NESG initiative and it's housed at the NESG, which is why I am called the resident commissioner, but we also enjoy support from, some of our usual benefactors, but in this particular case, for this roundtable, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have been excellent in supporting the institution and the work that this roundtable is going to do.
The establishment has been done, the inauguration has been done.
Yes.
The key question is what are you looking to achieve with your team? Then we'll talk about your team later on, but what would you be looking to how do you tee off?
It's a number of things. One of the first questions that we must answer, if you're talking fiscal policy, let me start on the revenue side. Who pays what, how much, and to whom? This is a question that we think is important to bear in mind, because there's no point if we are not even, at least that gives us a starting point, a baseline to say this is where we are at. On the expenditure side, it's who spends what, and on what, how much,
and why.
Precisely, and don't forget, Nigeria is 3 tiers of governance. The federal government is there, the state governments are there, and the local governments are there. And so we need to be clear what exactly, so for us, the teeing off point, if I can borrow your language, is to establish baseline. Where are we today in terms of how much is the government raising from what sources? How much is the government spending? On what is it spending the money? Is that the best way to spend the money? Are there other ways by which money can be spent? Are there other ways by which monies can be raised?
Will your work and your team, Dr. Salami, comprise some of the most head-scratching news items? For example, some government agencies, MDAs, make XY money. I say, well, I have an act that set me up that says I have the discretion to spend A, B, C, D, and F. Then you remit just a little bit of 2 pennies to the same government, and you still go back and get the budgetary allowance, and it keeps going down like a musical chair. Would your work try to help us clear up who is where and what?
And that is certainly one of the key areas that we need to be clear about. For us, and I must emphasize this, clarity as to where we are. By the way, when we talk about fiscal policy in Nigeria, my view is that we only see part of it. You see the ministries, but there are departments and government agencies that some of them are self-funding. Some of them are the ones you see in the budget are those that are funded from the government. There are others that are only partially funded. There are even some that are not funded but are allowed to raise their own resources. Now, how much coverage, how much capture in the data all of this has remains to be seen. But I would also like to draw attention to something, which is that in our view, at least some of the background work, there's a sense in which we begin to see that indeed some parts of the economy have been, shall I say, completely abandoned by the government. Let me explain to you what I mean. Typically, we talk about the informal sector, and typically we suggest that the informal sector isn't paying taxes. But the truth of the matter is that that's not correct. The taxes may be being collected by non-state agents, but it isn't that those who are in the informal sector don't pay taxes. All you need to look at, almost any state of this country, and you look at transportation. At every bus stop, a bus stops, some exchange of monies must take place. Some say to some union, others say, but these are informal arrangements that the bus drivers, the transport operators are paying. Now, sorry, it's, in brackets, it's a tax. And so it'd be useful to get a sense of this. Indeed, somebody drew my attention, and I keep wondering, and again, this is part of the, we need to verify. Somebody drew our attention to the fact that if you take Lagos, that on the marina, all these people who hawk pay for the privilege to hawk. Now, we've seen figures as high as 200 naira a day. Now, just imagine if these informal sector hawkers are paying 200 naira per day for the privilege to hawk. On a 20-day month, that's 4,000. On an annual basis, that's 50,000, just short of.
One individual.
Precisely.
One individual.
And yet, we would say they don't pay taxes.
And there are dozens of thousands of them.
So there are all sorts.
You're speaking to Governor Ambode here. Looking for where to. No, he will be interested in those numbers.
He might be, but for me, for us at the Fiscal Policy Roundtable at the NSG, what's important is to see what actually is in existence and also see what gaps. Again, our attention was drawn to trade across Nigeria's borders. Apparently, there's a huge amount of trade going on that kind of slips under the radar. Now, how large it is, I don't know. But these are parts and parcel of the information, of the investigation that we have been asked to undertake.
And you think your team, this A team,
yes.
This is a real A team. This is a Premier League team. Dr. Dungi Salami, Sarah Alade, Melafia, Suleiman Denusa, and the rest of Mase. This is a Premier League team. This is a winning team, it looks like.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt about that. The roundtable is led by Dr. Sarah Alade, who, as you rightly pointed out earlier, retired from the central bank as deputy governor, having also been acting governor of the central bank. Dr. Ndanusa, who was the DG at SEC, Professor Shomori, Teju Tax, as she's known informally. She had spent 35 years at the Inland Revenue, the FIRS, and is now a professor at Caleb and at Babcock. These are members.
This is the team to watch, Dr. Salam.
Well, we think so.
But it's a handshake for the resident commissioner. Congratulations.
Thank you
and we'll
very
keep an eye on what
very much.
your Premier League team is doing at the NESG for the Fiscal Policy Roundtable. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.